Welcome to Inspired Coach Podcast and the Coach's Couch. It's really wonderful to have you here with me. Today we are going to be talking about the myth of the perfect life coach. What is this myth? Well, it's a big one and it's been around for a long time. And essentially it is the myth, the belief, the thought that anybody whose life is not perfect or even exemplary and exceptional in some way or in all ways should be a life coach, let alone even study to become one. It is the myth and belief that to support people, to help people, to work with people in their life, that you have to have everything in your own life exactly sorted out, perfectly under control, no issues, no problems, no worries, no concerns, nothing that is out of sorts, nothing that is wrong. You get my drift, right? That myth. And it is a myth that I see that actually does exist through external factors and what it is that people say, and I'll give you an example of that in the moment. And also, very much so, it is an internalized myth. It is an internalized belief that some of us have, that to even contemplate being a life coach, you must have everything in order in your life. You must be perfect, incredible, amazing, whatever. So even if the word perfect doesn't resonate with you, or you think, well, of course, Julie, there's no such thing as perfect, even thinking you have to be exemplary, you have to be exceptional, you have to have your entire life very, very much sorted out and you not be experiencing any issues, problems, worries, or concerns, even that is a part of this myth, right? So if you don't want to go as extreme as perfect, you can certainly add all of those other things within the mix. So where does this come from, this myth, which can be incredibly pervasive and stop people from pursuing their dream to become a life coach, or even if they do that, then really getting behind themselves and putting themselves out there with their coaching? Well, I have seen this myth, this belief fed into by the thoughts, comments, and behaviors of others. And a classic example of that is, usually these things are online. Someone saying that they are a life coach, or there being a discussion about life coaching, and some smart, in inverted commas, person, in fact, the exact opposite to smart, but anyway, some smarty, maybe that's a better way to put it, I know you all know what I mean, says, is your life perfect for you to be a life coach? Or, what gives you the right to be that because you're this or that, or I've seen you do this, or whatever that may be. And that 100%, that unwarranted throwing of ridiculous criticism feeds into this myth. But here's the thing, people like that who would say things like that and criticize like that are never going to be life coaching clients. They're never going to be a coach, and they're never going to believe or understand what it is that heart-centered, incredible life coaches actually do. So the result of that is, and I'm fairly set about this one, is that their opinion means nothing. It is not relevant. It is not informed. It is not helpful. It is not constructive. It is just simply the throwing of muck, right? And we've all been there and received things like that in varying different things in our lives. It doesn't necessarily have to mean about being a coach. It could be about anything. There are always going to be people like that are outside the arena throwing stuff because they've got nothing better to do or say, and they're not informed or educated about what it is that they're talking about. They're stirring the pot, so to speak. They're causing trouble. They're baiting. They're trying to get a rise. Throwing stuff out there. So I know that stuff can sometimes be very hard to manage and deal with, but if that's ever happened to you, or it is happening to you right now, and I hope that it's not, but please try to put it into perspective and understand that if you're pursuing a dream to become a life coach, or you are a life coach trying to build your business, that you're never going to be able to get everybody to understand what you do. This is the same with so many other professions as well. I come from a therapy background. There are still people in this modern day and age, even with the incredible need that we have for mental health support, counselling, therapy, psychiatry, psychology, all of the things. There are people out there that do not believe in therapy. They do not believe in what therapists do. They do not believe in counselling. They do not think it is of use. They actually think it's harmful. Right? So this is not just coaching. There are people out there that criticize many, many different fields of practice, okay? And you genuinely have to build a fortress for yourself where you understand who you let in closer and whose feedback and opinion is constructive and helpful and informed and what's not. And you got to stop, you got to block that stuff out, because you can't get everybody to understand what it is that you do. And such people are, in fact, often incredibly harmful. And so they, through their misinformation and misbehavior, feed into this myth of the perfect life coach. And what can happen is that we can internalize that, but also internalize it from a societal perspective as well. Maybe what it is that we see on social media, but don't have an understanding of behind the actual scenes, to then take it on board ourselves and think, well, I have to be perfect. I have to be exemplary. I could never have any issues or problems in my own life to be able to support somebody else with their life. Well, look, this is probably going to come across, and you all know that I don't have notes or anything like that when I do these episodes. Sometimes I have dot points to help me remember some of the things that I want to say to you. But put frankly, that's just garbage. It's, being really honest, it's harmful, it's negative, it's untrue, and it is creating these invisible rods for our back that stop us from pursuing our dreams, from being who we truly are, and so much more. So let's go a little bit deeper and talk about this more. You know, I'm sure that you are already aware, and you don't need me to tell you, but sometimes these reminders can be helpful, that even attempting to try and be a perfect person or live a perfect life can actually make things for ourselves and our lives so much worse than actually just embracing the truth and the rawness, the uniqueness, the authenticity of who we are and the truth of what is going on in our life actually unfold. The pursuit of perfection can send us into spirals of self-doubt, obsessive behavior, trying to be somebody that we're not, comparing ourselves to others, and more. And so this is the terrible irony of the pursuit of perfection, is that we can convince ourselves that it's something that we must do or we must be, and again, if not perfect, then exemplary or exceptional. because that's what it is that's going to be needed to support people and help people as a life coach. But in fact, it can send us spiraling into those things that I just mentioned and make things so much worse for ourselves personally and create incredibly unfavorable conditions, unfavorable for the space holding and support that we truly desire to give our clients in the future or our clients right now. And so this myth is a harmful one. Trying to be perfect as a life coach is, and if you're trying to be, is you executing harmful behavior towards yourself. And also, in the end, let's ask ourselves this question. What even is perfect? What is a perfect person? What is a perfect life? What is a perfect coach? Well, here's the thing. Such things are completely arbitrary because what looks incredible and potentially perfect to one person is not going to be for someone else. Okay? There is no barometer here. There is no actual end destination. And this is where perfectionism and the pursuit of it can see us just perpetually spinning our wheels and never ever actually reaching a destination that feels good and comfortable and right. Because the goalposts, we can shift the goalposts all the time and likely will, thereby ending up in perpetual cycles of pursuit rather than just truly finding what will help us relax into being who we are and compassionately and kindly honoring ourselves and how our lives are at any given moment. The other thing to really think about here is that so often we have harder expectations and are crueler to ourselves than we are to others. Because I'm sure that if I was to ask you, do you want to work with a life coach that seemingly on the surface is perfect? Nothing's out of place. Everything in their life is beautiful, divine, amazing, got it all sorted out. The works, right? Everything is just pristine. It's spot on. Is that the sort of person and life, even if it is part of a brand, even if it's not actually true behind the brand, behind the social media presence, behind the website, behind a beautiful photo shoot, all of those sorts of things, even if it's not there behind it, do you want to work with someone that is projecting that all the time, that doesn't actually ever share meaningfully and of course carefully, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in a moment, aspects of their life that show their humanness, that show their realness, that show that there is something beyond that brand, beyond that facade? Do you want to work, or would you ever want to work with a life coach like that? I'm quite sure that many of you, if not all of you that are listening to this right now, would say, no, I don't want to work with somebody that is either like that or, more than likely projecting an image like that, a brand like that. So why then would you think that someone else would want that from you or want that from me? They don't. I am absolutely positive in saying that the overwhelming majority of people, if not all people, want to work with life coaches who are real. Of course they do. Who are authentic, who they know are or have experienced things in life that make them more empathetic and caring and understand their unique situation. This does not mean that you have to experience or have had experienced the same things as your clients, not at all. But it does mean that the overwhelming majority of clients want to know that you've lived, you've overcome some stuff, you have the usual kinds of parenting or health or relationship or spiritual issues and roadblocks and bumps and hurdles and shadows and things in life that you have overcome and or are working through right now. Now, this does not mean that we as coaches have to show our entire lives or, in inverted commas, mess to other people online or in public ways all the time, or to any extent that goes beyond us feeling comfortable and safe. Okay? We have to be more discerning than that. And this is we have to be more nuanced than that, more nuanced and discerning. And this is one of the big issues that I think exists sometimes, especially in the social media space, where people throw out quick Insta quotes sometimes, but there's not a lot of layered thought that goes beneath that to really help us to unpack what that Insta quote might mean a little bit more. So we see things that encourage us, for example, to be authentic, to be real, to unmask, to embrace vulnerability, all of which are incredibly important. But our egos and minds can then grip onto things like that and think, well, if I'm not telling everybody everything about my life, my personal life, that somehow or another means then that I'm not fully embracing my vulnerability, that I'm not fully being authentic, that I'm not being genuine. And that is just simply not true. It's not true at all. We can't take things like that to the absolute extreme. I certainly would never tell everybody everything about my personal life online. It would be unsafe to do so, right? And also disrespectful if it involved other people in my life, people who I care about, my family, my friends, relationships, and the same would be for you as well. Being genuine and real and authentic and showing our, in inverted commas again, messy selves online, just our true selves really. It doesn't even have to be messy. And that we experience issues and problems and weirdness and wobbles and all of those kinds of things doesn't require us to share everything about ourselves with everyone. Not at all. It's not required for you to really, really break this myth that life coaches have to be perfect or that you have to be perfect. It also doesn't mean that we don't be professional. We have to stop thinking about these things in very black and white terms. And as I said, nuance is required here. You know, there are certain photographs and thoughts and feelings and life experiences that are just not appropriate for anybody else except you and your most trusted inner sanctum. And no one can say that their trusted inner sanctum is the internet, is their social media following. We can't do that. We have to protect ourselves more than that. But it also then doesn't mean that we should try, even remotely, to send out messages of perfection or that we have things worked out all the time, or that nothing in our lives is challenging or difficult. This is a call for us to be human, for us to be real, for us to be genuine in a way that fits and feels right for us, and also will allow ourselves to show our newsletter community, our followers, anyone else that may be connected or see our work in such a way that we're not perfect and we're not trying to be. And especially, as I mentioned before, because the pursuit of such a thing is harmful to us. And if we do show those sides of ourselves that feel safe and comfortable and right for us, and that results in people unfollowing us or unsubscribing or thinking that we're not okay to work with, then that is the right thing that has happened. That is their choice. Just as it's your choice to do those things with anybody that may say or share something that no longer resonates with you. Well, I know this is a bit of a tangent. I'll give you an example. Someone that I have been following for a very long time online and is not necessarily someone I would say was a friend, but is more than an acquaintance, somebody that I'm friendly with, in the past 6 months has shifted their form of marketing to be very, very income-based. There is constant talk about money, about how much money their clients are making, about how much money they're making. Even though it makes me feel somewhat uncomfortable, I'm ready to unfollow that person on social media, which I think would come as a shock to them. But I'm no longer resonating with how they are promoting themselves and what the core essence of their business and their work in the world seems to be about. I mean her no harm, of course. I do not dislike her as a person or anything like that. It's just that I'm no longer resonating or feeling connected to wanting that to come into my world. And that is my personal choice. And I guess I just mentioned that because people make decisions about why they might unfollow us or unsubscribe or disconnect from us for a lot of different reasons that they do not have to give an explanation for. And we can either choose to get wrapped up and caught up in the why of that, or we can choose to keep going and moving with those people who consciously do choose to be connected to us and keep going. And so, the myth of the perfect life coach. And it really, really is a myth because nobody's life is perfect. And nobody's life is exemplary or exceptional all the time. Neither does it have to be. Neither does someone's life have to be for them to be an incredible life coach, business coach, health coach, any sort of coach. In the 20 plus years that I have been coaching, I have been less than perfect the entire time. And I have had health issues. I've had an experience of depression and anxiety, which I had to seek clinical therapeutic support for. I've had relationship breakups. I have had extensive ongoing issues with certain family relationships. How long is a piece of string? And I know that if you put your hand over your heart, whether you are just starting out as a coach right now, or whether you're a very experienced coach listening to this, maybe you have had some of those experiences as well, and or other ones that have been seriously impactful on your life in ways that you might see lessons from now, but at the time did not feel great, amazing, and many other things besides. And there were times, especially when I mentioned that experience where I had clinical depression and anxiety, where I had to take some time out from coaching and I had to take some time out from counselling others that I was doing at that time as well. Yes, counsellors and therapists sometimes need therapy and counselling. But the rest of the time, I continued to work with clients. I continued to be there for them and support them as I was managing my own life and all of the things that were going on in that were not perfect, that were not exemplary, that were not exceptional. All of those experiences have made me a more caring, empathetic, understanding, supportive person, and also seen me have to draw upon resiliency and strength that otherwise I might never have known that I had. And I know when I say that, you're probably thinking to yourself about some things that come up for you that you can relate to with your own resiliency, your own strength, your own overcoming. And all of those things contribute to the human being that you are and the imperfect, but still truly incredible life coach to be, life coach trainee, or life coach that you are now. So if this myth or belief of you needing to be perfect, exemplary, or exceptional is stopping you from becoming a life coach and pursuing that dream for yourself, or stopping you as a life coach now from putting yourself out there or needing to put yourself out there in a way that is actually just a facade, it's time. It's your time to stop and let that myth go, let that false belief be released, and embrace yourself in all your realness, all your rawness. This is how we want our clients to show up for us. We want them to show up as real and raw and truly themselves, and you get to do that and be that too. Your clients need you as the fullest expression of who you are, and the world needs you as that too.